Hello, everyone, and welcome to Truth Shots with Kapil Narratives and Neurons. In this particular episode, we welcome Anamika Mishra.
Thank you so much for
Welcome,
having.
Anamika.
Thank you.
A leading voice in the space of self growth, mindful travel, and conscious living. As a certified coach, author, and founder of Responsible Yatri, does it have to do with responsible tourism?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
perfect. It actually reminds me of the time when I was an agency for Yatra,
Okay.
and we were doing a responsible tourism. But we will talk about that in a little bit.
Sure.
She has inspired thousands to pause, reflect, and choose a more intentional path, both in how we live as well as how we travel. With over 1 million followers across platforms, she doesn't just influence, she guides. Whether it's through her writing on human relationships, her advocacy for sustainable travel, or her real world coaching sessions, Anamika has built a life rooted in authenticity and inner alignment. Here, we will talk about the healing power of movement, the mental toll of hustle culture, and why sometimes getting lost is the first step towards finding itself. So, welcome, Anamika.
Thank you so much for having me on this wonderful podcast.
Thank you. Let's start straight away with Responsible Yatri.
Sure.
I'm very interested. So, how did it come about? What do you do there?
Okay, so I've been a travel blogger since 2007, and since then I've initially I used to travel with family and then friends, and from 2013 I've been doing it professionally. So it used to pinch me that yeah, people litter here and there. They're not mindful about traveling. They're not thinking about things that they should be thinking while traveling, like you eat chips and then you throw away the packet there. So it used to pinch me, but then I was not taking any action. I was focusing on travel content creation. Then one incident triggered this travel responsible yatri platform was so my nephew, he was like, right now he's 11, but that time when we started, he was 9, and he was very excited for the Mumbai trip. He has never been to a beach destination, and he has seen Mumbai in vlogs and movies, and it looked very nice and aesthetic. So he was like, my friends have been there, please plan a trip to Mumbai. I have to see Juhu, I have to see Gateway of India, this, that. And we finally planned a summer vacation for Bombay, and I've lived in Bombay for like 5 years. So I was like, yeah, I'll take you around, we'll go. And so I took him to Mumbai. So one day there was this day where itinerary was like, we'll start from Juhu and we'll end with Marine Drive, and we'll explore the South Bombay side of the Mumbai city. He went to Juhu. He was so excited, like we could just see on his face that he's going to Juhu beach. And the moment we reached there, and like within a fraction of seconds, he got turned off, and he was like, Bua, can we go somewhere else? And I was like, what happened? He was like, no, Bua, I'm not liking the place. I was like, why? Like, let's just be here for 15-20 minutes and then we can go to some other place. No, Bua, please go, please, let's go. I was like, what happened? Kya ho gaya? Kuch lag gaya, kuch bura lag gaya. What happened? He was like, it's so dirty. I'm not liking it. And I was like, okay. Then we was like, okay, theek hai, we'll go to somewhere else. And then we went to Gateway of India. And there they have these ferry rides जहाँ पर वो आधे घंटे का राइड कराते हैं. So we booked that for him, and we were like, yeah, okay, I'll take you to the ferry ride. And I was shooting a vlog, so I was looking here and there, clicking pictures and making videos. And he was like, Bua, niche dekho, it's so dirty again. And I was like, yeah, it happens with the water bodies, वो काई जम जाती है, this, that. So I was not looking down कि वहाँ पानी में actually है क्या. नहीं, it's not kai, it's not the natural thing. People have thrown chips packets, people have thrown water bottles there. And I was like, really? And I saw, and I was actually very disappointed. And then he said, Bua, so many people follow you and you focus on travel content creation and you have such a nice, YouTube channel and blog. Do something about this. At least tell people not to travel like this. They should be mindful about it. And that's when I thought that maybe this deserves a step, because it's very important that even small kids are getting bothered. They, like my nephew, he's very mindful about traveling because he himself doesn't like it, like going to a place and then it's all dirty and it's all it's stinking. And that happened in even Kashmir also, in Gulmarg. When you go to the main place, it's all dirty, it's very dirty, matlab bahut hi ganda tha. So now it's like So that's how Responsible Yatri started. And then obviously, my friends, my family, even the followers, they just now keep on recording the clips and they send me, to spread awareness. So even if I am traveling with my family, if they spot something which I may have missed, they'll call me and they'll say, "Suno, isko Responsible Yatri mein zarur se dalna. This
Sure.
deserves something." So yeah, that's the journey of Responsible Yatri.
Fantastic. So, what all do you take care of in that? Is it only talking about garbage and everything, or what all are the missions
No,
for
so
Responsible Yatri?
responsible tourism, responsible travel is all about being mindful about everything that you do
Okay.
when you're traveling. Whether it's staying in a hotel,
Sure.
whether it's shopping from a local, whether it's the etiquettes that you show off where you're going, or it's about littering, about garbage, about trash, everything. See, you want your home to be clean, you want your room to be clutter free, you want your home to be a nice place to live in. You treat the place like that also wherever you go. So yes, Responsible Yatri, we talk about supporting the locals by being nice to them, helping them, buying stuff from them, like the handmade, the handicrafts and stuff. And then obviously major part of Responsible Yatri is about the trash and about the people littering here and there, because that is, I think, the majority of the major problem of the travel tourism. People go to the picnic spots, they eat and they leave the things there. I mean, it takes about 5 minutes to just wrap it up and
Right.
throw it in a dustbin. So that's one thing. And then with it's not just about the platform, the blog and the social media, but I also do consulting for small scale businesses like boutique hotels, Airbnbs, and homestays, and help them understand how within their budget and within their reach they can turn things into responsible tourism, and then they can take steps towards that. So I do consulting as well. And then yes, doing workshops is one of the parts, because I feel the next generation, the Gen Alpha, the Gen Zs, they are the main change makers. Like I can always tell you, but you or maybe the other person will be like, okay fine, ठीक है बोल दिया. But this generation, that the next one, I feel they are very very conscious and they're very mindful, and if we tell them the right thing, they will follow it. Like I have seen my nephew, his friend circle, they all follow all of these whatever I tell them. And that's a very good thing to do. And even they tell their elders also कि आप ऐसे मत करो, देखो आपने छोड़ दिया, please इसको आप उधर फेंक दो. So that's everything about Responsible Yatri that I do.
I remember my sister stopped littering when her son started pointing out.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I
That's
get exactly what
the
you're saying.
beauty, and that's, I feel this generation is they're very impulsive also, and they're very quick learners. So if I give you the fact, and I think they work on the facts. अगर आप उनको कुछ भी spirituality या कुछ भी ऐसा बताओगे, they'll be like, okay, this is a superstitious, is just another orthodox, and I'm not going to follow. When you tell the scientific facts that, okay, when you do this is the result. Like you may go, but this packet will remain for next 100 years or 200 years or 500 years. So they'll think about it and they take action. So I think awareing them is like awareing the entire family.
Absolutely. So you wear many hats as an author, as a life coach, as a travel blogger, as an entrepreneur. Which of these define you more?
That's a very tough question actually. See, I am a traveler, I am a seeker at core, and whatever I do is interconnected to traveling, to just going out and seeking inspiration. And like with my books, I travel, I seek inspiration, I learn something, I find a solution to some problem, and then I'll write it, frame it, and write it in a book.
Sure.
For travel blogging, it's the same. There is this experience, there's this storytelling, there's some learning, and I'll share it in my blogs. With life coaching also, when I meet people, when I talk to them, it gives me a chance to learn human patterns, behaviors. In fact, the problems that I may not be that aware of the problems that they are facing. Sometimes some people come to me with problems that I have not even thought of. So it helps me, and everything is just comes to the core that I travel a lot. And when I travel, I have a habit of talking. Like I can talk to a 10-year-old, I can talk to a 60-year-old. I have this habit, and I love listening to the stories and to their experiences and learnings. So I think everything is interconnected, and being a traveler or being a seeker defines my core.
Okay, great. So, in your opinion, what's the one mindset shift that people need most today?
I think from chasing to attracting, that
Okay.
is the biggest mindset shift that people need right now.
Okay.
Everyone is chasing things. Everyone is chasing wealth, chasing money, chasing good job, chasing relationship. You need to stop right there and start attracting. That
Okay.
is the important thing. So once you shift your mindset from chasing to attracting, you'll start seeing the positive, changes in your life, and you'll start manifesting things. Like manifestation is not something, it's not a mumbo jumbo, or it's not a okay, you think and you ask, believe and receive. It's not like that. It starts from your mindset. So once you start, you bring that shift from chasing to attracting, I think that is actually going to bring good things and positive things in your life.
And this is something that you have talked about quite tremendously in your new book, Shoo the Noises.
Yes, yes.
So, how is this particular book different than numerous other self-help books that exist?
So firstly, Shoo the Noises is all about understanding your noise, because there are so many noises in and around us that stop us from taking that one step, that required series of steps to actually manifest your dream life, actually make things happen in your life. So it helps people understand their noise and then break the pattern, because often we are stuck in a pattern. Like we do things, then we get stuck, we come back, we sit, we sulk, and then again we think we can do it, again we go back, and this loop goes on and on. You're stuck in the loop. It's with the personal life, it's with professional life, it's with every aspect of life. So I feel breaking the loop second, and then reclaiming your focus, because once you break the loop, you have to reclaim your focus. You have to see where you want to go, where you want to reach. The destination should be clear, and then obviously manifest your dream life. How it's important, I would say, I have read personally, I'm a reader, I read a lot of books, and I've read a lot of books about the same, but either they are focusing on the science aspect of manifesting your dream life, or they are focusing on the spiritual aspect. I'll take a few names. Like if you talk about The Secret book by Rhonda Byrne. She talks about the gratitude, the power of gratitude, and the entire book focuses on the gratitude aspect. It is very important. I agree 100%, but it is a part of the process.
Sure.
Then we talk about The Power of Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. It's a very brilliant, amazing book. It talks about the power of your subconscious mind. My book, Shoo the Noises, talks the perfect 360-degree aspect of manifesting your dream life. It talks about the perfect balance. And the perfect balance comes from physical, mental, and spiritual aspect of your life.
Okay.
So the book covers the entire aspect. So that's why it's different.
Okay.
Plus, it has my personal experiences as well, learning. So obviously that makes it very, very different, because I'm sure what I have experienced, every single human is different. Their experiences are different. So I've included those experiences, those learning in the book also. So yeah.
Okay, great. Many times I find some of these things, some of the call it wisdom that gets thrown. Sometimes I find it kind of redundant. I'll explain how. So, assuming you are an entrepreneur, you start off a business, and you leave the business. Okay. There are only two options: either you will be successful or you will be not successful. If you leave the business and you are successful, then everybody would say that you did the right decision of quitting early. If you are unsuccessful, they would say you should have persisted, and it would be the reverse if it's the other way around. I think everybody need to have a conscious view of what's going on in their life
Yeah.
and take a call exactly as per what their life dictates. And if somebody asks me, I say the one thing that you need to do is always know whatever decisions you made in the past were all right.
That's true. That's 100% true. I agree with you. Even I, whenever anyone asks me if you want to change anything in your past, if you regret anything, I say no, never. I was talking to someone the other day during the book launch, and she asked me that, ma'am, how would you like, do you regret coming from a city like Kanpur and not being born in Delhi or Mumbai? Does it makes you feel that if you were born here, things would have been different? And I was like, no. If I was not there, I would not have been sitting here. My mindset would have been different. My thought process, my experiences would have been
And that's
different.
not even an option, right?
Yeah. So I was like, I do not regret anything. Every single decision, good, bad, ugly, it's mine and I own it and I accept it completely because that's what has shaped me. Like I'm sitting here,
Absolutely.
I'm talking to you. It is what I am, and
Yep.
that's what the past has made me. So
Yep.
that's
The
completely
question that
true.
I usually get asked
Yeah.
the most is, I came back to India in 2007. I spent nearly a decade in US.
Acha.
I was working in IBM corporate headquarters,
Uh-huh.
and I always get asked the question,
Do you regret coming back?
do you regret coming back?
Yeah.
And my usual answer to people is, I don't know. Maybe I would have left IBM, started a company, and I would have, sold it for $500 million.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have been laid off in the 2008 crisis.
True.
I don't know which of the two would have happened. All I can tell you is, 18 years, no regrets.
That's amazing. And that's how it should be,
Hmm?
I feel. Because, you never know. I mean, you are always seeing, people always think grass is greener on the other side. So they keep on assuming things. ऐसा होता तो शायद बेहतर होता. But you never know. You don't know. Things don't operate like on the basis of your assumptions. So I think that's actually how it should be. No regrets at all.
So let's shift to travel. What's that cringy, social media trend that you see and, not for you?
Okay, it's the breakfast on bed trend where social media influencers they show that they have just woken up and then the staff comes with a very nicely set tray with all the eatables, all the breakfast items, fruit platters and everything, and then they start eating on the bread. I find it so bad, so cringe, so annoying because it is so unhygienic. Like, I am a kind of person, and I think everyone should be that kind
But
of a
it's
person.
not unhygienic, because if you look at them, most of them have come out of a Ekta Kapoor serial. They are, they have all of their makeup on. They are, dressed for
Woke up
eating.
like this.
They woke up like this.
No, but it's actually a very bad influence on the.
I get.
Yeah.
The one that let me say the breakfast piece only. The one that I find the most cringy. Have you ever tried having your food in the pool?
Oh my God. So I'll tell you, one of the resorts, they actually said that we have this floating breakfast and we want to promote that. And I was like, if I will do this, the people watching me, especially the youngsters, they will think that aisa karna is very good, very comfortable. Actually, it's not comfortable.
I will
And it's not
end
good
up.
also.
I will end up having a little bit and then
And
washing
then
my
watching
hand
it,
in the pool and then
yeah,
coming back.
exactly. And what if you drop the juice? What if you drop? Oh my God, it's very bad. So I really find it cringe, and it's so unhygienic. I mean, you get up in the morning, you do your brush, you wash your face, and once you're done with that routine, I think you will not feel like going back to the bed because the energies don't align. You feel like, okay, fine, abhi mujhe kuch fresh chahiye.
I remember a few years back, I was with someone,
Yeah.
and we tried this, champagne in the bathtub.
Oh my God.
Did not work for me.
It never works. It's very bad. Bad
Did
idea.
not work for me. Said, we need to do one of the two things.
Right. No, such a bad influence. I mean, हमारे दादी नानियाँ हमें ये सिखाती थी कि बेड पे खाना नहीं खाना चाहिए. and that's a very logical thing, you know. It's logical from the cleanliness aspect also, and from the spiritual aspect also. So we should not eat on bed. Like, I have grown up with this mentality. Whenever I used to sit on my bed and eat, and my mama was like, bed पे मत बैठो, इधर नीचे निकल के बैठ जाओ, या टेबल रख लो, या टेबल पे बैठ जाओ, बट बेड पे मत खाना खाओ. So, you know, that breakfast on bread, it annoys me to the core. And I'm like, you're influencing the young generation to just wake up and start eating. I mean, this is so bad.
Okay.
I hate it.
Let's shift from there. From travel, let's get towards mental health.
Yeah.
Do you think travel itself can replace therapy for some people?
Actually, no. Travel can act as a catalyst. Travel can help you to heal if you are at the entry level or mid level of any of the mental health issues, say depression, anxiety, or anything. But for the chronic illness and for the chronic mental health issues, I feel travel itself cannot help. It can be a part of the healing journey. It can be a part of the change, but definitely not as just one thing. Okay, I'll travel and I'll be fine. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं होता. So yeah, it cannot replace the therapy.
But wouldn't that give you a complete, time to develop a completely new perspective?
No. So what happens is, different people, different brains, my brains.
Sure.
And since every single brain is different, when you never know what's going on in someone's brain. So when you start to travel, say if anyone is depressed, and when they travel solo, they may get more negative thoughts than positive thoughts.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and they may do certain things that they should not be doing. It can harm their health. It can even worsen the mental health. So I feel it can be a part, but no, it cannot
But then
replace.
at the same time, this person may be doing solo travel, ends up meeting a few interesting people,
Yeah.
Gets a better kind of perspective on life.
You're just focusing on the positive side. What if a person stays in a hostel, there's a very nice vibe, everyone is all gelling and chilling, and this person develops insecurity. This person becomes more underconfident that I am not the part
Fair.
of.
Absolutely fair.
Yeah.
That's actually where I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
So my perspective on this is everybody should get to choose what works or does not work for them.
Exactly. There's not one shoe fits all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you think travel is something that you want to do, so let me give you an example.
Yeah.
I can't travel.
Okay.
I
You
mean,
can't travel.
I can't travel.
Okay.
I remember 5 years back, my friends from college took me to Goa.
Okay.
Okay, we were on a 4-day trip.
Yeah.
Third day, I went to my friend and I said, "Yaar, mera na ho gaya.
Okay.
I need to be in my office. It just doesn't work for me." And we were having an amazing trip. We were, drinking all the time. We were on the beach all the time, and it was 4 friends. It was, that Zindagi Na
Chahta
Milegi
hai.
Dobara types
Okay.
kind of. And I had super fun the first 2 days. Third day, like,
हो गया.
how do I go? How do I go back from there? But then there are people who find a perspective.
Yeah.
For me, what travel would probably be is, so I'm going out somewhere
Yeah.
for a business travel, and I will take a half a day or a 1 day off, and I will just kind of squeeze in something, do
Yeah.
some
Different, yeah.
exactly, do something, have some fun, enjoy myself, do something crazy, and come back.
Yeah.
But then that's simply my way of what works.
Yeah.
There are people, and I know people that would go for a 1 month backpack.
Yeah.
They will come back and they will be so rejuvenated in life
Yeah.
that it's crazy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you are right. If somebody has a disorder or a disease,
Yeah.
then they probably travel itself is not the answer. They
Yes.
need to ensure they take the right medication or the right therapy,
Yeah.
or they take the right professional support or something else.
Yeah.
For people that are in distress, I think travel, depending on their personality, of
Yes,
course,
of
travel
course.
could be a wonderful wonderful initiative, something that they can do that might give them a fresh perspective, that takes them away from whatever is going on in life, and then kind of, if they can, and again, whether they do it solo, whether they do it with friends, however they, it's really upon them how they take it on.
Yeah, actually, I'll tell you, my flatmate and friend in Mumbai. So she was a complete different from what I am, and she was so comfortable in her own zone, going to the office, coming back, working on her skills. So she was an aspiring singer at that time. Now she's doing well, and she used to come back and she used to practice and alap karna, and then talking to friends and all that. So whenever I used to tell her, "Chalo, hum trip plan karte hain," she was like, "Bhai, mere se nahi hoga. You go, you travel. Travel works for you. It's very good.
Yep.
I cannot do that. So मुझे बार बार travel को मत बोला करो." So she was like that only, and that's how I feel कि travel is not for everyone.
Absolutely.
It looks very, people romanticize traveling after seeing these movies, ye Jawani Hai Diwani, ki okay, you go, there's this introvert girl going on a trip and then coming back as someone who loves herself and takes stand for her own career choices or whatever. So I think it doesn't work for everyone. It's not, as I said, one shoe fits all.
By the way, I blame Bollywood for most of the vices we have in life.
Oh yes, absolutely. They show things that people start to feel that हाँ ये अभी सच है and I have to follow this path only, and then
In fact, I think our obsession with pseudo socialism started with the movie Naya Daur.
नया दौर
Yes,
नया दौर
the old one.
the old one, Dilip
The
Kumar
Dilip
sir.
Kumar one.
Oh, okay.
I think our obsession with pseudo socialism.
How I did.
So, the movie essentially talks about how all progress is bad.
Uh-huh.
How you can't
Yes.
be replacing, the Balgadi with a car.
Yes.
How you can't be developing a factory instead of a farmer's field. How
Yeah.
you can't be doing anything that would put you in a different zone.
Yeah. It talks about that machines
And-
will take away the jobs and
Exact.
people
And it
will.
talks about how rich people are always bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I think there was I see that movie as kind of the starting point. In fact, in my first book, I had talked about it.
Yeah.
That particular movie and that particular part of the movie.
Actually, good that you mentioned 2-3 days back. I was reading this news, and it talked about how AI is, replacing the jobs, and even with the new Google Veo 3, where you can, create videos
Yep.
and everything. How people are thinking that okay, their jobs are at stake. I was thinking they should be now Bollywood. Someone will get this idea in Bollywood and make this movie Naya Daur 2, and then they'll talk about this, because this is actually bringing a revolution sorts. But yeah, I think I blame the Bollywood as well. As much as I love watching movies, I love stories actually. So whether it's a book, it's a movie, or it's a show, if I find the storyline good, sometimes I watch for that reason, or sometimes I watch just for the sake ki why this movie is doing so well, like why people are liking the movie. I'll mention this show that has recently released, The Royals, on, I think, if I'm not wrong, it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. I can't, of course.
Yeah.
Those kinds of shows just don't work
Oh
for
God,
me.
yeah. So I felt that, and there's this movie called Khoobsurat. It was a very nice movie. I really like that movie. It has Sonam Kapoor and Fawad
Right.
Khan. Yeah. That's a very nice movie. It talks about the royal and how they, how things work around it. So I had this image in my mind that maybe they have created something like this in this, and that's why I watched. And also I like watching the royalty and stuff, and for the sake of story. Oh my God, what a disaster that web series is.
Okay.
I mean, it's cringe. It's talking about things or showing the lifestyle that I don't think it doesn't even exist, and it is nonsensical. But then I watched that show till the end just to know why people are going crazy and I still couldn't figure out. I just felt it's about Ishan Khatter's physique and how he looks and his fan following, that girls are going crazy about this show. But then yeah, so I think even I blame Bollywood for majority of things that are wrong in this society.
So, so we talked about travel and what does it mean from a therapy perspective.
Yeah.
When do you think a coping mechanism crosses into a dependency? And how can mindful living guide us back to balance?
Okay, so coping mechanism turns into a dependency when it becomes an easy escape rather than a conscious tool of healing. you know. You start taking it, you just brush it under the carpet. It's more like that. So when you start doing that, it becomes like an escape. You don't heal. You temporarily find that, okay, I'm feeling good, but then you're back to square one because you have not healed, you have not cleared the air, you have not cleaned the floor, you have just brushed it here and there, and it will keep on coming back.
Sure.
So yeah, and then mindful living actually helps. Why? Because it helps a person to pause, to observe, and then to evolve. So when you pause for a moment, say I'm talking to you, and I feel that, okay, maybe this is a water bottle and I should be drinking the water from it. I will be mindful about my choices. Maybe I'll say something to you, maybe I'll do something here which will, make me feel that, okay, this was a very mindful decision, this was me and I took this decision and it helped me. So every single thing that you do, I feel a person should be conscious, should be mindful, even if it's eating your meal. Nowadays, you see, one side you're scrolling your phone and then you're eating, and then you're scrolling. It's such a bad habit. The food doesn't align with your energies. The food will not do its job. It's just filling your stomach. When you eat mindfully, and I've spoken about mindfulness in my book as well, a majority of part of my book is about mindful living, because that actually helps you heal. Because what you do is you start to accept everything, you start to observe everything. What I am doing right now is not good for me.
Sure.
You repeatedly tell this to yourself, you will stop doing things that are bad for you. It goes with the addictions also, it goes with binge watching also. You need to have that control. People binge watch till 4 a.m. in the morning and then they regret the next day. What if you watch one episode and then you tell yourself, okay, I'm feeling drowsy, I'm feeling sleepy, let me just watch it tomorrow, maybe I'll continue. ये कहाँ जा रही है, वेब सीरीज थोड़ी ना हट जाएगी. सो व्हाट इफ आई विल वॉच इट टुमारो? आई डोंट हैव टू टेल एनीवन, आई डोंट हैव टू इन्फॉर्म. Obviously if it's a part of your job, then it's a different thing, if you're a reviewer and you have to submit
Sure.
but then for the other people, so every single thing requires, and then definitely it helps you, to accept whatever is around you, to observe whatever is around you, and then that's how you evolve.
But isn't mental health all about developing coping mechanisms?
No, mental health, I feel, is all about how positive, how content you feel in your own skin, in
Sure.
your own life. That's what mental health. And if you're having a good mental health, even if you're going through a bad phase in your life, it will not hit you there, because somewhere you tell yourself that this is temporary. I'm fine, I'll come out of it, maybe I'll find a way, I'm confident that, okay, I have a solution to this problem, maybe. And maybe if I don't have a solution to this problem, I'll wait, I'll see what's next. So that's how you don't spoil your mental health.
Sure. But wouldn't you consider that as a coping mechanism itself?
No, overthinking is a coping mechanism. I think this is not a coping mechanism. This actually, yeah, this is not a coping mechanism, I feel. I mean, mental health is all about, taking care of yourself and just feeling content. That's what I feel. Yeah.
Okay. So for me personally, I mean, having been in the space for a few years, I consider everything and anything can be a coping mechanism. In fact, I jokingly use this example in some of my workshops. I drive in Delhi, okay, and I drive a big truck. And I am very well capable of taking my big truck in the inside lanes, to this Hanuman Mandir in Kashmiri Gate
Okay.
on a Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay, in the evening in full traffic.
Yeah.
I have developed this coping mechanism that I will drive while I'm abusing. I will never roll my window down. I will never fight with anybody on the street. I will never even, kind of look at them and do.
Yeah.
But I will be driving, abusing the whole way out.
Okay.
It's a coping mechanism that just doesn't work for anybody else. My daughter comes to office with me some days, but she will never go back with me on a Tuesday evening. Never.
Yeah.
She's very clear. This
Yeah.
just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
But for me, I say that's my coping mechanism. It may not work for you.
No,
You may
that's
find it
true.
abusive, and
Yeah.
it's not
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 cool,
the
yeah.
right way to be.
Yeah.
But
But
hey,
that's how you
it works for
channel.
me.
That's how you channel. Actually, you're not harming anyone else. You're not. It's just you're channeling whatever you're
I am
feeling.
very clear. I will never be in a road rage. In fact, a few months back,
Yeah.
I was driving back home.
Yeah.
There was this car, and they had parked wrong. They were just standing on a traffic light,
Yeah, yeah.
and I kind of went in. I have big cars, right?
Yeah.
So I just went on the left, and I overtook them.
Yeah.
Not even overtook them because they were standing on a light.
Uh-huh.
They got offended. They
Okay.
were probably 4 boys drinking in the car.
Uh-huh.
They followed me, stopped my car, and they wanted me to get out. I did not roll my window down.
Yeah.
They broke a car window.
Oh.
I did not do anything.
And then?
Then I came back home
Okay.
and slept.
Okay.
I tried to call cops, but they were asking too many questions. And I
Yeah.
told them I dialed by mistake. Kept the phone and,
Yeah.
put a nasty Facebook post, of course.
Yeah.
And
That's
got
a way
out.
to vent out. Yeah.
So, my coping mechanism.
Yeah, so different people have different coping mechanisms. They need to see what it's working for them. Like I usually, when I am stressed or when I am, overworked up or overwhelmed, I usually just start journaling. And if you'll see my this stress and venting out journal, you will not be able to read a single line because what I do is I just move the
Scribble.
pen. I just scribble. Yeah, that's it. And that's how I just feel okay, I have vented out and it works for me. It works really well for me. Like one day I left one of my journals on the table, like this journal on the table, and my nephew find out and he was like, "ये करा क्या है आपने lines बनाए scribbling करी?" And I was like, "This is something else. I'll tell you when you'll grow up."
So you also talk a lot about alternate mechanisms. So you talk about practices like tarot, practices like allied therapies, mindful tools, self-reflection, personal insight. Can you talk about how do they fit overall in the healing journey of an individual?
Okay, so as I said, it's all about the perfect balance. While physical and mental is how you do it, like the way you live and the way you talk and whatever your soft skills are, whatever. The spiritual aspect is balanced by these tools, I personally feel. The energy work, what I label all these therapies is that. This energy work is very important because, see, at times, whatever I feel, whatever our reality is, it's the result of our dominant thoughts in our subconscious mind.
Sure.
And that's a very scientifically proven fact.
Absolutely.
Like, so the subconscious work is very important. Like, you need to feed your subconscious mind with positivity if you really want to have that positive life. Otherwise, you'll attract positive things in your life, good things in life, but it will be on a temporary basis. It will stay with you for maybe a day, a week, or a month, or an year, but then it will start to drift away if it's not there in your subconscious. Seed of that positivity, you need to plant it in your subconscious, and that's what exactly this energy work does. Whether it's tarot, whether it's say aromatherapy, journaling, using prompts, or Ho'oponopono prayer, there's so many things. Even doing a puja. I am a very religious person. I do puja every day, and I feel that half an hour, the conversation between me and my God, and I telling them things, I'm chanting mantras, I'm reading, scriptures, that actually keeps me, very grounded and very at a very peaceful state of mind, because that's working in my subconscious. Actually, what happens is sometimes we don't know the meanings of the words. It's in Sanskrit, most of the things even I don't know. Like right now, okay, I'm reading something since last 10 years, I know the meaning. But at times you read, you don't know the meaning. But still it helps you, still it affects you. That's exactly with the mantras. That's exactly what happens with the switch words.
Sure.
So I feel this works on the energy level, and once your energies are aligned, it's the frequency, and once you align your energies, once you get tuned into that frequency, I think the healing starts to happen, because it starts from inside. It's not just about the world outside, and that perfect balance needs to be maintained. So these tools helps in the to align the energies. and I prefer personally journaling. I love tarot because tarot, obviously, it's not everyone can do, because right now these days it's very viral that you just buy a card and then you can use it like a journaling prompt. But if you really want to read tarot cards, you have to learn how to read it.
Sure.
And it's not just about the literal meaning of the card, it's about when you meditate, when you develop your intuition, that's how you start to read the cards, because you get
Sure.
downloads.
Mhm.
So yes, so these therapies, the allied therapies, that as you said, these helps just to balance out the inner energies, the subconscious level.
Mhm.
In fact, subliminals, I would like to mention, subliminal audios are like amazing.
Mhm.
If someone is unable to do like anything, journaling हो गया, कुछ भी नहीं कर पा रहे हो, just sit for say 10 minutes and listen to whatever subliminal suits you or whatever you require at that very moment. You just listen to it and just leave it there.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would take it back and say, hey, everybody needs to find out what's that coping mechanism that works for them.
That works for
If
them.
that coping mechanism is spiritual, if that coping mechanism is religious, if that coping mechanism is some other form of allied therapy or whatever else, identify. And one of the
Identify.
things that I always say is hone in on your coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Many times, coping mechanism for us is in our subconscious.
Yes.
It's something that we do when we get into a certain situation.
Yes.
And one of the things that I focus on in my workshops is I would always say, bring that coping mechanism to the front. It doesn't matter how good or bad it is.
Yeah.
It may be punching a wall for all I care.
Yeah.
Okay, it may be abusing like I do, driving
Yeah.
for all I care.
Yeah.
But bring it out upfront as part of your conscious,
Yes.
not as part of your subconscious.
Subconscious.
And then repetitively being able to do it whenever you get into a tough spot.
Yeah.
Okay? I think that's really where a lot of mental wellness comes into being. So, many people have this question that they always would ask me: am I religious or am I atheist or am I, what am I? Most people consider me as irreligious.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily irreligious. I just have developed this, and I use it as a quote. It's actually mentioned in my book also. I have a pact with God. It says, you don't mess with my life, I won't mess with your life. And we both live at peace, forever.
Yeah.
And that's, my way of looking at
That's very interesting.
But at the same time, it means that I always need to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so not messing with, God's life.
Yeah.
No,
No, that's
you look
actually
at it.
how it should be. Because see, if you don't believe in anything, I always tell people, if you don't believe in anything, let it be. No one is asking you to, change your belief system.
Yep.
It's okay. You don't believe, you don't like. It's like liking a green color or blue color. I cannot convince you to like blue color if you like green, right? It's like believing in ghosts. You don't believe in ghosts, it's fine. Don't believe. I personally feel if there's positive energy, there's negative energy. So that's fine. So, but then don't disrespect the belief system.
Absolutely. So my team, for example, right now, they want to do a Havan in office.
Yeah.
And my response to them is, I don't care.
Yeah.
You can choose to do whatever you want to.
Yeah.
If you will ask me to sit in front of the fire in heat, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
If you will let me turn on the air conditioners and everything on,
Yeah.
and I'm not very discomforted
Yeah.
by what you are doing and it helps you,
That's fine. Yeah.
be my guest. I'll sit with you.
Yeah. No, that's how it should be. I see people, if you don't believe, you start to, disrespect or say bad things about. No, don't do it. It's fine. Different people have different perspective, different belief system. And what you said, I really I want to emphasize on this, that people need to identify what works for them, what is their coping mechanism, what if they are spiritually inclined or they're religious. They have to identify.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you, before 2018, I have done my study of my certification and my degree of life coaching in 2013-14. Since then, I used to be, obviously I am a Brahmin girl, and my my entire surroundings and everything is more about your religious and doing puja, and everyone is religious. Being Brahmins, we have to follow certain things and all that. And I have been like that, and I love it. But I was not very deeply intertwined with it till 2018 and 2020. There's this major shift happened when in December 2018 I lost my dad, and then within 1.5 year, May 2020, I lost my mom. And I tried all of these things that I talk about. It helped me, but it was helping me temporarily, and I had to learn something that explains what happened, because you cannot justify someone passing away, and no power in this whole universe can bring back your loved ones.
Sure.
So it was really hard to accept. How to understand. I started reading Bhagavad Gita. I started reading Ramayana, and these scriptures, these books actually changed my perspective to certain extent, and that's how. And I had learned tarot, I had learned astrology way back, like in 2014-15, because my perspective was, see, as a life coach, I can, I can argue from both sides.
Sure.
I can tell you are also right, and if she's telling me something, I can say, okay, she's also right.
Sure.
So who will decide who is right, who's wrong? So that's how I learned tarot and astrology, so that I can actually read the energies and the planets, movement and everything, and then I'll suggest you what's the right thing to do. Usually therapists and life coaches suggest, okay, let it be, let it go, it's toxic, leave it, move on, whatever. But I usually, that's why I call myself as holistic life coach, because I also focus on the energy aspect, and that's how I am able to tell you what is right and what is wrong for you. So, but then I was not practicing it actively, because it was just, I learned it out of curiosity, and I was doing it like on and off. Once I learned, like when my mom passed away, and when I was trying to come out of depression, and I was, because when I lost my dad, I had my mom to support. I have my mom to see, and if I would have lost it at that time, my mom would have, she would not have been able to live only. So I had to come back, I have to be strong, and I have to be all like, I am supportive, and don't worry, we are all here and all that for my mom. But when I lost my mom, I was like, now this is it. So although I do have like my brother and my bhabhi, and now their kids, and we all, obviously we have been living together since long. So I mean, everything is good. But then losing both of your parents in a span of 1.5 years, it was so much for me to take in. So yeah, so when I actually deep dived into the spirituality aspect, the religious aspect, and when I started learning these things, I started to implement those, those practices in my life. It actually brought a very positive change. Like right now, if I'm able to sit and talk about my parents passing away without crying, although it still gives me goosebumps, and it still takes a lot of strength to talk, but still I'm not crying right now. And that's all because of the spiritual shift that I brought. And that's why I wanted to include all of this in my book, Shuddha Noises, because it's not just about one thing that works for you. It's the set that works for you. It's everything that you do once you wake up in the morning till you fall asleep at night. Every single thing matters. So yeah, people need to choose that what really works for them. It's not like I will tell you. I'm no one to tell you what's right, what's wrong for you. You decide. I will just guide you. Okay, you want to do this? I'll help you in that.
Sure.
बट देन यू हैव टू टेक द डिसीजन कि हाँ ये सही है कि गलत है, ये वर्क करेगा. मैं तो बोल दूँ ट्रैवल कर लो, मेरे लिए वर्क करता है. आप जाके वहाँ पे डिप्रेस हो जाओ और एंजाइटी क्रिएट कर लो, you get lost, you are unable to find your way back to the hotel, then you will blame me, मैम आपने बोला था सोलो ट्रैवल करो, it will help. So you need to figure out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Fantastic. I would love to continue this conversation further. But I think we are coming towards a time crunch. But I do have the next phase of what we do in this podcast, which is what we call as a rapid fire round.
Oh,
so I'll ask you a question, whatever comes to your head first.
Okay.
Just say that.
No long answers?
No wrong answers.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I don't think there is ever a wrong answer. I think...
long answers, I say.
Oh, no long answers, yes.
Yeah, okay.
A destination that healed you.
Gulmarg.
Gulmarg. Okay. Why?
So I like greenery. I like although I'm a beach person, I love beaches. But Gulmarg has this one vibe that it just feels, and there are these lavender fields there.
Okay.
Once you enter those fields, and it's in summers only. Like if you'll go in May, June, July, you'll find these beautiful blooming and Gulmarg itself means Gulmarg, the road of flowers.
Yep.
So it's all flowers, flowers everywhere. Like I was so surprised. The bouquets that we get in Delhi for say $1,000, the flowers are there out in the wild. People are just
pick it up
pick
and
it
it's
up.
yours. Yep.
So it was so beautiful and pleasing to the eyes. And then when you enter those lavender fields, there's the scent in the air. You actually take a deep breath and you feel, this is wow, this is amazing.
Sure.
So it heals. I think there's this natural aromatherapy happening in Gulmarg. So yeah, that healed to some extent.
A book that changed your mindset.
I think Power of Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy.
Okay.
Because before reading this book, I used to think that whatever we do here on the conscious level is what we are, going to attract in a life, and that's what it is. Like, I did not understand the power of I was aware that, okay, we have these three states of mind, the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious, but I was not aware of the power of the subconscious mind, the scientific aspect. So when I read this book when I was in college. That time I had not done my certification and degree of life coaching, so I was not aware of these things. So when I learned, I actually felt that, okay, this is so powerful. Like 95% is the subconscious mind, and this is just 5%. Like we think, okay, this is so much, but this is nothing. It's all your subconscious. So that book, yeah.
One habit you swear by for mental clarity.
Journaling.
I actually was gonna say, for you it must be journaling only.
It's journaling. I always carry a pen and a notepad. Even right now I'm having it. I always have it. Anytime, every time I feel something, I start to write.
So my next question was mountains or beaches, but I think you already answered it's
beaches. I don't know why Gulmarg is an exceptional. It's my favorite, the most favorite place. But yeah, beaches. I'm a beaches person.
Biggest myth that you see about travel influencers?
Oh, that we get to travel for free all the time. It's not the case.
Okay. A travel moment that scared you but changed you?
Okay. So there's this has to be a long answer because I have to explain
to set the context, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I was in a flight from Delhi to Pune, and it was an evening flight. And so I was sitting in the window. I always opt the window seat. So I was sitting in a window, and then middle was empty, and then there was aisle. And this person sitting on aisle, he collapsed. And he was like, we all, and I personally, for that very moment, felt that he's gone. And I was stuck here. He was there on the tray, and they were announcing that is there a doctor on board, and everyone was panicking. And I was sitting. I started actually, stood up and stood on my seat, and I was like, I had to come out there. I'm feeling very scared because this person, I think he just died. And then the doctor came and he checked the nerve, and he was like, I think inko chakkar aa gaye hain ya ye behosh ho gaya, but he's not dead.
Sure.
He's fine, and then let me do something and he'll be fine. And then those 15 minutes, and everyone was like, bachchi dar rahi hai. And this was back in, I think, 2014-15. And there was this uncle, very kind uncle. He was like, bachchi dar rahi hai, isko bahar bula lo, wo aadmi shayad mar gaya hai. Oh my God. I was scared, like, a person, like I was talking to this guy.
One is the situation, one is what people are saying around the situation.
Yeah. And then what in my mind, I was just thinking, I was talking to this guy. Like we sat, and then he said, so I opened my book and I was writing something. I was working, I think, on my second or third book. I don't remember exactly. Yeah. So he said, are you a student? So I said, no, I'm not a student. I'm a writer. So he said, oh, you write? What do you write? So we had this kind of a conversation. And then in the middle of a flight, he just So that moment really scared me, but it changed me, and in a way that I just felt that, sometimes you just need to calm down. You should not panic. You need to find the solution. At that very moment I was just thinking about myself, that I have to come out of this place, because right, the person next to me is, I think he's no more, touch wood, I think he's fine right now also. But at that moment, and then after the flight, even the doctor came to me and he was like, why were you so scared? And I was like, I don't know, I just felt that and that time obviously, like, I had not lost my parents, so I had not experienced anything like this before. So I thought he's gone, and he was like, even if he's gone, and the doctor told me that even if someone has passed away, take a deep breath and just think for a moment, just
Be
pause.
mindful for the.
Yeah, just see what has happened, just accept and just sit quietly. Need not to panic. Panicking will not help you. Even you may have hurt yourself. You were standing on the seat in a plane, you banged your head when you panicked, and you wanted to jump to the next row. It would have hurt you big time. So never panic. So yeah, so that moment actually changed me. So like right now, if anything goes wrong when I'm traveling, or if anything happens, I'm like, fine, let me wait, let me take a moment to see what has happened, and then let me figure out the solution to it. So yeah, even whenever anyone travels with me, they are like, आप परेशान हो गए, फंस गए, कुछ हो गया, आप इतने चिल कैसे हो? मैं कहती हूँ, मैं चिल नहीं हूँ, मैं थोड़ा सा मोमेंट लेके ऐसी, अब तो हो गया है, मतलब this has happened, so let's not focus on what has happened. Like in Vietnam, I was traveling, someone was trying to pickpocket and take out the notes, currency notes from my, and my cousin was like, oh, chori ho rahi hai, wo chori kar raha hai, chori kar raha hai. And I was like, ek minute, wait, let me just see what has happened. And then we were able to stop the guy from taking out all the notes from my sling bag. So yeah, it's that, whatever happens, take a moment, pause, and just find a solution with a peaceful state of mind.
I think these are all experiences that eventually end up being you and making you.
Yes.
So, with that, I think we'll come to the end of this particular episode. Thank you so much, Anamika.
Thank you.
You've been fabulous. I'm sure our audience is going to enjoy this episode. They're going to find a lot of good pointers for them. They are going to be able to figure out their coping mechanism. They are definitely going to be more responsible when they travel.
Yes.
And of course, follow Anamika for more interesting stuff. And as always, come back to the next episode of Truth Shots with Kapil. Thank you so much. But before we sign off, we actually have a small gift for you. This is what we call as our soul calmness hamper.
Oh, wow.
And here is a certificate from our side.
Thank you. This is beautiful.